In this WrestleTalk news, real-life heat between Seth Rollins and Riddle, WWE don't like SummerSlam, another WWE Championship potentially scrapped, and more. Subscribe and enable notifications to always on for daily wrestling news videos.
Support WrestleTalk!
Seth Rollins is set to take on Riddle at the biggest party of the summer, Summerfest, at the end of this month, in a feud they've been building on Raw over the last few weeks. But actually, this is a rare case of long-term WWE booking, as their rivalry actually stretches back behind the scenes 3 years ago to 2019. Following Seth attacking Riddle during the KO show segment on Monday, Rollins tweeted, "I've hated this guy for a long time. Nashville is gonna be a reckoning. Hashtag SummerSlam, hashtag Rollins versus Riddle." But this isn't just a bit of sudden character work to make the story feel more substantial. Seth hating Riddle for a long time is actually a work shoot brother, much love HH, kiss. Cast your minds back to November 2019, a simpler time when AEW Dynamite had just launched, SmackDown had moved to Fox and Brock Lesnar squashed Kofi Kingston in seconds, and WWE had ruined The Fiend. Actually, you know what? That was worse than the pandemic. Riddle's then wife Lisa posted a body-shaming message on Instagram directed at multiple main roster divas, can't say that anymore, where she accused them for being straight, skinny, jiggly fat, and that they should just squat more because they're getting paid a ton of money for how they look. Rant over, blowing kiss emoji. It's okay everyone, she put a blowing kiss emoji at the end. That means it's all okay. So how does that affect Seth Rollins? He's got a fantastic bum. Ooh, squat slayer. As you can see, one of the divas Lisa singled out in the accompanying video was Seth's then fiancée, now wife, Becky Lynch. The feelings were still strong a year later when Seth said in a WWE watch-along stream for the 2020 draft, "I have no interest facing Matt Riddle at any point in my career, so he can go to Raw for all I'm concerned." Riddle himself actually also addressed the heat in an interview with TalkSport last July, following the two actually interacting in the cross-brand matches at Survivor Series 2020 and Royal Rumble 2021, where Seth eliminated him. He confirmed the heat was because of the comments his then wife had made referencing Lynch. "I don't think we like one another. We're just two different people, although we both love wrestling. I know my significant other said something about Becky that they didn't like, and I also did not like or agree with. Seth didn't like me after that, and I don't think Becky liked me or my wife either, which is understandable. It is what it is." Apparently Rollins actively avoided him, with Riddle saying he felt like Seth wasn't willing to do any spots with him at Survivor Series. But following that match, Riddle apologized to Rollins for his wife's comments, which Seth accepted. Riddle clarified since that conversation, "We're good enough to be working together. I don't think we're friends." Before we get on with the rest of the episode, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to this video's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends! The greatest dark fantasy RPG for your phone or PC, and this month is a great time to dive into the game, as Raid is overhauling their Champion Vault, with loads of awesome small updates and 5 new champions being released. Signing that many new characters at one time? Who do they think they are, Tony Khan? On top of that, Raid's running a huge series of Summer Splash events for the whole month, where you can get hold of awesome skins for everyone's favourite hot and cold dwarf, Trunda. Seriously, it's the character design and detail that's my favourite thing about Raid. Just look at that hat! Like I said, this is the best time to get started in Raid, and if you click my link in the video description below or scan my fancy QR code on screen now, you'll get a free starter pack worth almost $30. We're talking the free champion Aina, 200,000 silver, 1 energy refill, and 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon awesome champions as soon as you get in game. All this treasure will be waiting for new players here for the next 30 days. So click our link in the description below to get all that treasure today. Please do at least click the link to check the game out, as it really helps support us here at WrestleTalk too. Raid that raid. Riddle vs. Rollins is one of the 8 currently announced matches for SummerSlam next Saturday, and is a likely contender to steal the show. But according to WrestleVotes, WWE aren't that into the matches, they booked themselves. In the most WWE of ways, I had a source tell me this morning they really don't like the SummerSlam card, they being the people who put it together. And what? The card as it currently stands is the aforementioned Rollins vs Riddle match, Pat McAfee vs Happy Corbin, which McAfee continues to make way better than it has any right to be, another celebrity match of Logan Paul vs The Miz, Bobby Lashley vs Theory for the United States title, 2 blockbuster women's title matches with Bianca Belair vs Becky Lynch and Liv Morgan vs Ronda Rousey, the other likely contender for match of the night, the Usos vs the Street Profits for the WWE Undisputed Tag Titles, with special guest referee Jeff Jarrett for I still can't work out why. And WWE's favourite match to do, Roman Reigns vs Brock Lesnar in a last man standing match, with the threat of Theory cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase. Sure, the matches feel a bit like every other premium live event this year, again, but it's still a pretty decent card, especially by WWE corporate metrics, with half the matches having mainstream draws in, Lesnar, Rousey, McAfee and Logan Paul. Perhaps they were hoping for one more, like the John Cena appearance they had last year, which appeared to be in the works before falling through because of him filming Peacemaker Season 2 in Canada. Why do you think WWE are unhappy with their own SummerSlam card? Let me know in the comments. The creative plans were enough to keep Monday Night Raw's viewership steady though, pulling in pretty much the same 1.76 million number they did the previous week, despite competition from the Home Run Derby. Interestingly, it seemed the third hour held younger viewers more than normal, which could be explained by young people inexplicably liking Logan Paul, or they want to see his face get punched in. One of the two. Last night's NXT saw some long-term angles paid off on, with the mysterious QR code teasers being revealed as a returning Zoe Stark, who's been out with injury since November. She won the 20-woman Battle Royal to get a shot at Mandy Rose's women's title. I know, I'm shocked too. Where did NXT get 20 women from? Joe Gacy unveiled the Dyad to be the re-gimmicked grizzled young vets, with Zach Gibson and James Drake now going by the names Jagger Reed and Rip Fowler. Sure. I'm following up on not just the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships imploding, but also the skateboard used for the turn. The freshly heeled Cora Jade parted like it was 90s WCW Medusa, throwing her title in the trash. Her partner Roxanne Perez still holds the other championship belt, but it's a bit meaningless without a partner. Considering what's just happened with the main roster women's tag titles, where the company vacated them following champions Sasha Banks and Naomi walking out on an episode of Raw, they're not following up with any plans to replace them in the months since. Could this be the end of the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships too, that were only introduced in March last year? Whatever the idea is, Kevin Nash wants these kids to slow the hell down. Thanks for your support on Patreon, Double L Liam Leonard and Mad Mac the Meat Father. Go to patreon.com/WrestleTalk to get your own shout out. On the latest episode of his Click This podcast, Kevin Nash told a story about a recent visit he made to his too sweeting buddy Shawn Michaels at the WWE Performance Center. Despite saying he's back, Triple H is reportedly still limited behind the scenes, which has left the NXT brand to be run by Michaels. And in watching HBK do his thing, Nash found himself having a clash of wrestling ideology. I went down and I watched NXT taping. I said, slow it the down, right? Michaels just looks at me and goes, it's not the style anymore. You just have to accept that. The style is the style. He goes, you go out there and do test of strength and people will walk the out of the arena. They are operatively conditioned now to do this. The fans want to see this. They want to see a spot fest. Nash instead pointed to the main roster, specifically the 11th of July Raw tag match between Rollins and Theory against Riddle and Lashley, as a great example of the ring psychology style he likes. It's the latest installment of Kids These Days Be Ruining Stuff, a series usually run between AEW talent and Jim Cornette. As usual, the middle ground is where the too sweet spot is. Maybe we shouldn't be doing second rope tombstone pile drivers as near falls, but also rest holds are boring. What do you think about Nash versus Michaels here? Let me know in the comments. There's been an update in the strange story of wrestler Michael Elgin reportedly being arrested while in Japan on tour there for Pro Wrestling Noah. Cassidy Haynes of Bodyslam.net first reported that Elgin, a former ROH champion, was arrested for stealing protein powder. If found guilty, he'd be deported to his home country Canada and not allowed to work in Japan again. This will potentially severely restrict Elgin's working options. After being fired by Impact in 2020 following speaking out allegations against him, he was also arrested last July for violating a protection order filed by his ex-fiancée. Elgin denied the story on Twitter, saying he wasn't charged, was never put in jail, and was simply flying back to Canada first class to be with his family. It's since been pointed out, why would he steal protein powder if he could get it from the Noah dojo he was training at for free? Dave Meltzer has now confirmed though that there was an incident at the gym, although it might not be anything to do with the protein powder. Elgin was detained by police following whatever the incident was, resulting in him missing the Noah show on July 10th. This prompted Noah to unbook him for the remaining dates, which is why he's flown back home. Back to WWE, perhaps the reason they're so unhappy with their SummerSlam plans is simply because Roman Reigns isn't working. Here's Pete to tell you why.
Roman Reigns isn't working. Now, by that, I don't mean that he literally isn't doing his job, though that could also apply these days, but I mean that the purpose and the goal of the tribal chief isn't being achieved. Now, this marks quite a drastic shift in my own perception of Roman Reigns. I mean, you go back to any podcast, SmackDown review,